I'm thrilled to welcome you to Breakout Session C, Advocating for Yourself, a youth panel discussion. I would like to first introduce you to our three speakers, and then they'll have an opportunity to speak for 10 minutes each, and then we'll open it up to questions and discussion. So our speakers today are Gavin Morrison, Meghan Vanderyt, and Kelly MacDonald. Gavin Morrison is 21 years old and was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa at the age of 5. He is in his final year of business management organization studies at the University of Western Ontario, and Gavin enjoys reading, wakeboarding, watching baseball and UFC, and playing something called Mario Kart on N64, which I'm sure some of you will know what that means. This year, Gavin rode 140 kilometers on a tandem bike in Cycle for Sight to fundraise for the Foundation Fighting Blindness. That's a tremendous accomplishment. And I think Gavin's team of family members raised almost $20,000 for the Foundation Fighting Blindness and Vision Research. So thank you very much. Meghan Vanderyt is 18 years old, and she's been living with retinitis pigmentosa knowingly since she was 11. Her vision changed drastically when she was in grade 9, and since then, she's made overcoming her vision loss one of her main goals. And Meghan and her family are very involved in our Ride for Sight motorcycle fundraiser. I know her parents learned to drive motorcycles just so they could participate. And Meghan and her whole family have raised, like $50,000 over the years or more. And they just keep raising more money every year. So they do a tremendous amount of work to support the research of the Foundation Fighting Blindness. So thank you, Meghan. And our final speaker is Kelly MacDonald. He, for those of you who can see Kelly, you might recognize that he's slightly out of our youth demographic, but not that far, slightly, but not that far out. And we invited Kelly because I know Kelly has some experiences to share. And I thought he would be a good addition to our panel to say, I've been there, and here's how I got through. And here's what I would say to myself, my younger self, if I had the opportunity. Kelly is a national reporter with Accessible Media Incorporated, one of our Vision Quest sponsors, and he's host of AMI TV, AMI Audio's original program, AMI Blindsided. He's also vice president of the Canadian Council of the Blind London chapter and sits on London's Accessibility Advisory Committee. And he also directs Out of Sight Productions, who are exhibiting here today, a London-based theater company that he founded. So today our panelists will share their experiences living with vision loss and learning to advocate for themselves. I'd like to welcome our first speaker, Gavin Morrison.
Hello, everyone. As Aaron said, my name is Gavin Morrison. 21 years old. I was diagnosed with RP when I was 5. It was the usual story of mom and dad started noticing I was bumping into walls, couldn't really follow them at night, took me into the doctors, soon after I was diagnosed with RP. The first many years of my life, all through elementary school, early years of high school even, my vision loss didn't really affect me too much. I couldn't see in the dark, obviously, one of the big things with RP. But, when you're young, you don't really do that much in the dark. You're with parents, you can help. There's a few things, but it's not really a big deal. But then you just go through high school, you change schools, your vision starts to get a little worse. Things start to get a little harder. So I switched schools after grade 10, going to a private school called Appleby College in grade 11, and at that time I still was not using my white cane. I could still get through the day. Most people not knowing I was visually impaired, like my friends would know, obviously, and then some of my teachers or sports instructors or whatever would know. But it wasn't really a big thing. It wasn't something I think about. It wasn't something I'd really let affect me. It wasn't. I always think I was pretty good at, explaining my visual impairment, like when asked and when the situation arose. I wasn't, and I'm still not as good at volunteering that information unless it's it's hard to just work it into conversation when often people think of you as completely sighted when you don't have your white cane, and then it's just little things. And that's why when I first went to universities, when I first started using my white cane, it was all new surroundings, all new people. So that's when I first started using the white cane. I used it for a little bit, and it helped, and it gave everyone knew that I was visually impaired. But then I kind of put it away after a couple of weeks. People on my floor and my residents knew I was visually impaired, and I could still get around it. I started to know the campus a little better, and I put it away. Then I started working in Toronto over the summer. I'd work downtown, and if any visual impaired person's ever tried to walk down the street of Toronto, it's a nightmare. And so I started using the white cane. That's when I really started to realize how big a blessing it really was, because it's a difference between going one block and getting jostled 30 times and throwing out 40 apologies, and then the difference between walking down the street and just seeing like the crowds just part in front of you like Moses. Big difference. And so now pretty much I'm in fourth year. Not pretty much. I'm in fourth year at business. Actually out of 5 years, and I'm pretty much using my white cane all the time now, and I'm happy with that choice. It really it really is the biggest thing. Like a lot of today's, we're going to be talking about different technologies. We're going to see a lot of different technologies, and things on the Mac and your iPhone and CCTVs and whatever it is are all awesome pieces, all awesome aids, and they all really help you. But when the biggest thing I find, and I think a lot of people find, is really the white cane, and it really makes a huge difference. Let's see. So obviously, as many of you with visual impairments know, and many who know are related to people with visual impairments, there's a lot of difficulties that come up with it. It often makes many of us introverted, or just adds on to many people's original introversions, such as myself, and it makes it hard to want to go out to bars. And I'm in fourth year here at London, and or here at Western in London, and it's I don't really go out to bars because I do sometimes. I'll go if we're just gonna sit there, watch the UFC, hang out, or we're gonna go there a Monday night or something, just drink some beers. But it's just to go a Friday or Saturday night, go to a club, go to a bar. You can still have someone helping you around. You can still have someone making you okay, but it's still you can't see in one of those places. It's a nightmare. And then on top of that, there's the things you don't really think about unless you're a visually impaired person, like going to the washroom, and how going to the washroom can really be a huge pain in the ass, because you have to ask someone, but then you get better at things, and you start, you have your close friends, and if you turn to them and say, hey, you want to go to the washroom, they know that you need to go to the washroom, and they'll help you find one, because especially in places like that, finding a washroom can be next to impossible. And then even once you're in the washroom, if you don't know the area, it can still be difficult. And then there's the countless of other things, just things we hear all the time. Like for me, I don't know what they put in those little wet floor signs. I think they're gotta be magnets or something, because I don't think I've missed one of those wet floor signs in my life unless someone's pushed me before I'm about to hit it. I swear to God, I hit every one of those, especially in high school. I swear to God, my high school was so crazy with those things. I could walk from inside the building to the line in the cafeteria, and I would have to get pushed away and get told to dodge 4 in that 300 yards. I couldn't even believe it. It drove me crazy. I started stealing them, just hiding them in my room, and hopefully they'd run out, but they never did. It didn't last very long. I'll be happy to answer. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure I've lots more to say because I'm blanking up here. I can't really think of anything. I used my cue cards for my my speech last night, so I'm out of cue cards. So.
Thank you so much, Gavin. I'll just go on. Megan's next, so I'll bring the microphone down for her and me. That's very funny that you mentioned the wet floor signs. I should have mentioned when I introduced myself this morning, I also have retinitis pigmentosa. And this morning when we were setting up the venue for Vision Quest, one of the first things I did was walk right into a wet floor sign in the lobby. And a good friend of mine, Michael Evans, who co-founded Cycle for Sight with me and also has retinitis pigmentosa, he has a great strategy for dealing with the wet floor signs, because for me, I always ran into the wet floor signs and they would prompt an internal dialogue that was quite negative. It would be, damn, I had another one of those stupid things, and why can't I ever see those? And I hate my vision, and I hate RP, and I hate my life, and I hate my hair, and it would just turn into this. Yes, very, and then you'd be embarrassed. So I would always have this really negative internal dialogue, which really is not healthy. And so Michael shared with me that his strategy when he runs into those signs is to yell out 5 points and move on with his day and let it go. And just verbalizing that just acknowledges to the world, yeah, that's okay. And acknowledges to yourself and really puts a stop to that negative internal dialogue that we all fall into sometimes, whether we have vision loss or not, and it's a good strategy for avoiding that. So enough about wet floor signs. I'd like to welcome Meghan Vanderyt to share some of her story now.
Hello, everyone. Like she said, I'm Meghan Vanderyt, and I'm going to try not to cover the same things Gavin did, but we do have the same disease, so it could be a little crossing over. I'm 18 years old. I'm right now in my first year at Sheridan College for Child and Youth Work. My vision is at about 12 degrees. If anybody knows what that is, it's around 180 degrees for the regular person, and I'm down to 12, and that's a circle all the way around, so can't see the feet, which would be why the caution floor signs are an issue. I also always have a problem with those. They're more of a tripping hazard than to caution anyone, I think. So I was diagnosed when I was 11. We found out through a routine eye exam. They found something on the back of my eye, and I went for an MRI. They had thought I had a brain tumor or something, I think. Turned out to not be anything, but before I left, the doctor decided to just check a couple routine things, check my balance. He asked me, tell me when you see my hand in front of your face. And so his hand was really close to my face, and my parents were going, that's not funny, Megan, because I was the jokester, and I was the klutz, and that's where it started. From there on was testing until we figured out that it was retinitis pigmentosa, which made a lot of sense. One time I ran into a barbecue when I was little. I was sitting in the middle of somebody's lawn, and we were playing tag, and it was nighttime, and all the other kids managed to avoid it, and I ran face first into one of those big barbecues. So it made sense. There was always times at Halloween. That's always the tricky one. Especially there was a Halloween where the power was out, I think, when I was younger. That was definitely an issue. No street lights. So when I was diagnosed, I had around 40 degrees of vision, and I lost about half of it around in grade 9. So that was a big thing for me. I went into high school, and all of a sudden I can't do things for myself like I used to. I'm still very independent, but I did try to use my I shouldn't say white cane because my cane is hot pink. I started using my pink cane at school in grade 9, but I stopped using it rather quickly because people were making fun of me, and they wouldn't understand that I could use my cell phone and my cane, which was actually easier with my cane because I wouldn't walk into things, but people would be like, that girl's texting, she isn't blind. And it was rude. I remember one time turning around and saying, hey, I'm blind, not deaf, thank you. Like, keep your words to yourself, please. But in my high school, I found a big support system, actually. There was another girl there who was visually impaired, and she went to all the same camps and stuff as I did. And if you are a youth and you're interested in camp, I would super suggest going to the camps at the Brantford School for Blind, the Views short-term placement weekends, and the camps over the summer. They're fantastic. They have independent living skills camps, and they have a music camp, which is absolutely wonderful. The talent you find with visually impaired kids is incredible. I've never witnessed anything like it. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, definitely look into it, because I found there, before I went there, I didn't know anybody. else visually impaired. And I was scared the first time I went. Like, what if blind people are weird? Or what if they don't like me because I can see? So, but my sister always told me that it's fine. I should go to blind camp, find a blind boyfriend who can't see my face. We have a nice relationship. But no, it's been absolutely wonderful. My experiences with that camp, I would never give up for anything. The adults there, they support you. They have visually impaired adults too who are teaching things that they know, and it's absolutely, I don't know what else to say about it other than check it out. I don't know what I want to say next. So high school was really hard for me. I hated high school. They gave me one of those massive laptops to cart around, the Zoom text. The kids were like, why is your font so big? Why does it move around your screen? It was really hard for me, and I found that without a good support system, I couldn't have done it, and especially not without my white cane. But having good friends around that you can just grab someone's elbow, that's important. And I think that everybody needs to tell people about their visual impairment. Almost my entire high school knew that I was visually impaired, and that made it pretty easy for me because a lot of people would know if I bumped into them, it wasn't on purpose. I wasn't trying to be rude. I wasn't in a rush. I just didn't notice. And then so moving into college has been a different experience for me. I kind of wish that I had started college out using my cane because nobody there knows, and it's hard for me. I lose things in my bedroom a lot. A lot. Especially I have a pink cell phone case and pink bed sheets. My cell phone goes missing all the time. But I'm lucky that my best friend is there with me. I dropped my residence key one day on my kitchen floor, but I thought I dropped it on my bedroom floor. So I had to have somebody come over and help me because I've been searching my bedroom for probably half an hour to an hour. And they walked in and they noticed the key on the floor in the kitchen, but they didn't say anything because they thought that was too obvious. That must not be my key. So we searched my bedroom for another half an hour before she was like, is it the one in the kitchen? What other key would it be? Yes, it's the one in the kitchen. Why didn't you just say that in the first place? It's just really obvious. I thought you'd see it. Well, it's white. The floor is white. Give me a break. I'm kind of drawing a blank as well, but I know I have lots to say. Okay. I guess I want to talk a little bit about Ride for Sight and the foundation then. Ride for Sight has been a major thing for my entire family. My neighborhood as well, actually. My parents started riding motorcycles so that they could join in at Ride for Sight. We'd gone for a couple years just to volunteer, and a man from a motorcycle crew asked me to ride with him. His name was Aminal. My parents said yes. So I rode with Aminal for a couple years before my dad got his license, and then after that, my mom. And after my mom, all of my neighbors. So there's 6 motorcycles on my street now. And they all ride in Ride for Sight. We're the Rockwood Riders. They all raise money for our cause now as well. It's absolutely fantastic. People have come in to help me and my family, and we want to give back to Ride for Sight and to the foundation for everything they've done for us. Without them, my family would be really confused and lost right now, I think. They've given a lot of support and information, and they're just always there for us. The Ride for Sight, the crew there is my family, really. I love them all. Every time I see them, they come and they give me hugs and Megan, and it's absolutely fantastic. And I find the same thing with the Foundation Fighting Blindness. It's really, the visually impaired community is a family. We're such a small community that we need to stick together in order to stay strong. Because I know that if I didn't have visually impaired friends to turn to when I was having issues with my vision, I would be having a much harder time. Because it's not the same as talking to somebody who can't relate. But when you can say to somebody, I tripped over a stroller and dropped my entire meal on the front of my shirt, and they'll go, yeah, I did something like that a couple weeks ago. It just feels nicer than telling your friends who laugh at you and say, I can't believe you dropped all your food on your shirt. It's nice. I love it. I wouldn't be as strong as I am today if I hadn't had the support system that I have. I think I'd be a lot more broken down, but it's good I get to see people whose vision is worse than mine doing just as good or better than I am. And that's the inspiring thing. We can all do it. We can all make it. Schooling, I know, is really hard, but I feel like it will get better. And I feel like if we advocate for ourselves, it can't really be that bad. If you tell your teachers what's going on and you tell your friends and you make sure that everything's going the way it should be, I feel like we can make it work. But if you if you get too nervous to tell your teachers and things like that, it's going to be a lot harder on you. And I know already, at college, I was supposed to tell all my teachers first day, and I told most of them and left out a couple. And so far, I've had to do 4 Scantron tests with those bubbles that are right next to each other, and you have to fill in the right one just perfectly so that the machine can read your test. It's brutal. And so I need to advocate for myself better in order to work in college. And it's something that with experience you come to learn, I think. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Megan. And our final panelist is Kelly MacDonald.
Good morning, everybody. Really wonderful to listen to the stories and experiences of my fellow panelists. I was diagnosed with RP way back even before I remember. My parents saw me light gazing at the sun and, there's something wrong. So I was taken to the Children's Hospital in Montreal, diagnosed, and when I started my education, because even back then in kindergarten, there was the talk of sending me to the Montreal School for the Blind. And my parents nor I were interested in that at that point. I remember coming after kindergarten into grade 1, my first day, and wandering around at this school, Parkdale in Saint Laurent in Montreal. Wandering around, waiting to be let in to begin our day, and some kids watching me. And one of the kids tried to engage with me in some way, I guess, but it was more of a teasing way. And I laughed and smiled and tried to just do my own thing until the first orange peel hit me. I don't really today care too much for oranges, and I think it has something to do with that. So I then found that I became a more extroverted individual. And I was a little guy then and became a little aggressive at school and stuff, almost as if I was proving a point that I could do just as much as the others. I was strong and no one could push me around. We moved to London, Ontario, and my father got his work, gave him an opportunity. Don't work here, or you could take a job for us in London, Ontario. So he got transferred. School here started out really well, but my reading abilities were a problem. So I ended up at W. Ross MacDonald School. And as a residential school, I'm very happy I went. I always say that for me as an adult, it's helped me learn a lot of things as my vision later in life would get worse. So I did my Braille, and I stayed there for about 8 years. Now, one of the things I learned at W. Ross is the perception of bullying, teasing, being picked on. For each one of us, it's different, depending on what you are okay with. Of course, boys, you don't go running, you ran to the counselor, you suck. So you tried not to do those things. You tried to take the teasing as much as you could. A lot of that, I was lucky. I had a wonderful support system out of my parents. So I learned a lot about kind of that attitude, but I was always a pretty sensitive person to other people too. But still needed to be told, that's enough teasing, Cal. Oh, because to me it was all in fun. To imagine someone taking me serious, no. But I'm certainly sure to some people, and I don't know how many of you are aware that at this time the government of Ontario is kind of going through a lawsuit, class action lawsuit issue with former students of the Ross MacDonald School. And when I get asked about it by people, were you abused there? Well, kids are kids. We did all sorts of things to each other, right or wrong. Staff, of course, are what the big question is. So I usually answer to people, well, there's what one would perceive as abuse everywhere. Whether you're at work, whether you're at home, whether you are in school, residential or non, you could perceive teasing, bullying, whatever it could be, harsher than someone else. There's things I know some people have went through that, to me, it's bullying, it's horrible stuff that some people have gone through. They laugh it off. Other people try to tell you, well, when they made me stay after school because I was disrupting class, that's harassment. And no. So I kind of feel that I've had that opportunity to experience it and kind of weigh it out. What's too much, what's enough, and no one can tell you what that is for you. So you do have to be careful with your teasing or any of those kinds of things. Now, when I left W. Ross, I went to Saunders here in town, secondary school, to finish up. And I used to always say, gosh, it would be nice just to have more people to talk to who had experience of life. Because, of course, the other kids, they don't think you're interested, as Gavin was mentioning about going to the bars and stuff. That's the last thing they think. Oh, he's blind. He's got too much else to worry about than doing this, that, and partying and whatever. But unfortunately, that puts us socially behind in a lot of ways. I remember when I started working at AMI, because, of course, we're a little more delayed at getting work, I remember telling my manager, well, I'm sort of like somebody at 21 years old getting a job, not someone at 30 getting their first full-time job. So please bear that in mind when dealing with me and, assuming, well, you should know better. When I was at Fanshawe College taking broadcast radio, I had a bit of an experience that was never really had before. On the second day of school, a guy who was 26 or 7 at the time started making this funny music noise. Do, 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 do. And of course that's like the Fat Albert theme. Myself, not being the smallest man in the world, kind of put 2 and 2 together, probably on his 3rd variation of the song, and realized, he's poking fun at me. So, being me, fairly extrovert, I turned one day and said, hey, that's funny. And he ignored me. So then he started again. My response then was, hey, hey, hey! And no laugh. So I let it go at that. Okay, fine. Another time when he'd kind of poke fun, I'd be walking along, he'd be behind me, and I actually kind of thought it was kind of funny personally. I thought he actually had an interesting variation, so I'd have to bite my lip to keep from smiling too much. But I realized at that point, you can have issue with people and really not have done anything to them. But of course you get dogged thinking in your head, what did I do to offend this person? One day we had it out, and I asked him, so what did I do that makes you dislike me so much? Because there were other things he would say and do. And he gave me one of the most honest answers I've ever got from somebody. His answer was, nothing. I just don't like you. And it was like somebody lifted a weight off my shoulders. Because we start thinking things as a human being. What did I do? Where did I go wrong? How did I offend or upset this person? And there's times you have to say, okay, they're entitled to their own opinion. I always say to people, well, can't be everybody's cup of tea. And that's fine with that. Was it right for him to do that? No. I'm lucky because I'm a pretty extroverted person, so I always think about those who aren't. How do you go into college or university? Advocate for yourself. As Megan was talking about, how do you go to your professors and feel about telling them? You have to go in there knowing all about your course, so basically you can teach your professors how to teach you. Is that your job? Well, unfortunately, it's your lot in life as a vision-restricted individual. If our community tied together was strong, then more of those things would be more known. And unfortunately, a lot of us for the longest time hide our vision impairment if we can get away with it. I remember at 16, I was doing a theater thing in Toronto. I was being billeted with a family. And as I walked back from the subway one day with the young man who I was hanging on to, and at that time I wasn't carrying my cane, we rounded a corner and a bunch of his friends were there. Hey, ha! And they froze because he had this big blind guy hanging onto his arm. He's, hi, guys. Oh, hi. So no matter what they thought, whether it's right or wrong, I at that point realized I put him in a very awkward position with people who were his friends. People who didn't have the maturity to stop and think, oh, did he turn gay overnight? So I had to realize I had to think of other people. The guy putting the floor sign out doesn't stop to think about the vision impaired person that might walk in, fall on it as they step in it, and they go skiing across a room on it. They're thinking of the lawsuit from anyone else falling on that floor. I always tell people as a blind person, every floor is wet. So anywhere I go, I assume that it is. So I don't, and they have to get, I got to get a couple of people in there to help that guy up. So I've always laughed a lot at myself, but we all have feelings, and there's times people go a bit too far. And you have to be fair and tell them. Sometimes they don't care. Most time people do. You have to advocate for yourself and be okay with that. Because you know what? Being vision impaired, there's a lot of time we get attention other people don't. When I was at Fanshawe, some of those kids in that little glee club of maniacs that would bother me were because they felt disadvantaged. In their head, I was getting advantages because I was the poor blind guy. There was no way they could step out of themselves enough to say, wow, how much stuff does he have to memorize that I can just look down and see a label that tells me what this button does or what this CD is. So I can only tell you, you're going to face it. School, unfortunately in the workplace, fortunately with groups you get involved with, but never let people drive you out of something you enjoy doing. Don't let it happen. Don't do anything extreme, because the only thing you can control is what you do. You can't control that clown next to you who's being offensive to you or hard on you or doesn't like you. And not everybody is going to like you, and that's all right. Who cares? Just try not to go out of your way to bug them too much. But do exist. You have a right to enjoy what you want to do. And no one should take that away from you. Thank you.